So
you've been zucked.
But yeah,
You know what? I'm impressed that I've never gotten zucked yet.
I haven't either.
I mean, I've been
knock plywood.
I've been pretty pulled back lately. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not posting a ton of shit.
Yeah.
I don't have it in me anymore. I ran out of like steam for the moment. It's just been so much to take in.
You know what it is? I find a lot of the people that get zucked like that, it happens because they get into a conflict with someone else.
Mm-hmm. And they get reported.
And I try to avoid that just because, you know what? If you're a fucking Trump fucktard, it's already too late. Like, what good is going to come from engaging with your stupid ass?
Yeah. So, like, my thing is, I don't have a lot of Trump supporters left on my timeline.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm, like, people are like, well, I'm not trying to look to make myself have an echo chamber or a this, that, and the other thing. And for me, it's really about the fact that when I come on the internet, I'm coming on for enjoyment, and I don't need to be pissed off reading a status from some dude that I went to high school with that I'm not actually friends with. Like, we're not friends. To know you, and I accepted you at first, and then you proved to me that you didn't need to be in my circle, so you're out.
Right.
Because it's not about conservative viewpoint or progressive viewpoint or liberal viewpoint or whatever. It's about you supporting horrible shit.
Right.
And being mad about it. Like, I didn't unfriend anybody at any point who had voted for Bush, even though I thought that Bush was kind of an idiot, but he's a jovial idiot. He was dangerous, but not the way that Trump is dangerous.
Right.
Like, I'm not out trying to get rid of people who have a different opinion than me. But when we're talking about opinions, especially on political things, if we're keeping it to politics, it has nothing to do with the trash that people who really ride for Trump stand for. That's not the same thing.
I ride a line because there's a handful of they're not vocal necessarily, but there's a handful of Trump supporters that I'm friends with on social media that could include a little bit of family also. Mm-hmm. I just got to the point, like, I don't even want to interact with these people in that way.
Right.
So I've made it so, like, certain people don't see my shit because I just don't, like...
You don't want the hassle.
Well, I don't want the hassle, and honestly, like I was saying before, if you're down with that shit, if you support that shit, like, I can't interact with you because it's not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's why with certain things, I just don't engage people on it. Like, I've been vocal on the show about I'm a diehard atheist, but, like, I don't really interact with people about it. Like, I'll post shit once in a while, but, like, I'm not really having, like, long conversations about it because, honestly, like, if you're a religious person, like, we're just not gonna... Like, nothing fruitful is going to come of it. Like, I don't think I'm going to turn around a religious person, and they're certainly not going to turn me around.
Right. I have no problem having just a regular conversation with somebody who happens to be religious or even are devoutly religious. As long as you're not pushing your religion on me, we're good.
But I also find that most people that are into religion, especially heavy, and there's a few other things that fall in the same way. Like, I'm not a gun person, but I know plenty of gun people. And I have found from experience, not really with the people that I know, but with other people, like, there's no talking to certain gun people. You know what I mean? Like they're just, whatever you try to tell them, it's just not going to compute because they're too into it.
Right.
You know? And it's the same thing with, like, law enforcement people too. Like a lot of them are just too deep in, because I've been friends with cops also. A lot of them, they're just too deep into that mindset. So having that conversation is not going to be fruitful. It's just going to be frustrating.
I can see your point.
You know, and it's like some of these people, like I said, are family or people that I've been friends with for a very long time. And it's like, do I want to completely cut them off? No, but it's a weird spot. And then having the band and the podcast and stuff also, you know, knowing people from other avenues just makes it even more complicated. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, maybe we don't see things the same way, but they're a fan of the band or they're a fan of the, well, if they're down with that stuff, they probably would not be a fan of the podcast.
Probably not.
But
hey.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, and on one hand, I can understand, you know, people say, oh, well, why would you stop being friends with somebody because of who they voted for or whatever? But on the other hand, you know what? Like, you're friends with somebody because you have some things in common. And like, if you're signing off on racism and like fascism and just straight up bullshit, because Trump is bullshit. The dude lies constantly. He's lying now. He's been lying regularly, like daily. Just look for anybody to fact check his shit. And it's not from somebody's point of view. He literally says something and then contradicts himself, which I've talked about a million times. So it's like, if you're signing off on like shit like that, and like especially racism and stuff like that, like, you know, it's hard. Like, how can you, like, that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. You know?
I mean, it's a deal breaker for me.
Right.
So, but for me, it's like, if we're talking political issues and we're talking about school taxes, or if we're talking about, like, are we trying to build a light rail for the city, or are we trying to, like, figure out how much is in a budget for, you know, road upkeep or anything along that line, I am not trying to remove you from my life just because you might be on the wrong other side of it, or what I would consider the wrong side of it.
Yeah, that's not the hill to die on.
But, you know, if we're asking questions like, are black or brown people bad? Are Nazis bad? You know, are war crimes like bad?
Yeah, is it okay to separate Mexican children from their parents?
You know, are people, even human beings, let alone worthy of getting married? Like, if we're arguing about these things, these are not political issues.
No,
those just that stuff that I have no problem unfriending someone. And just because I unfriended you from the internet doesn't mean that I'm going to try and fight you in the street. It just means I don't need to read your shit opinion.
Right.
That's all it means. So, I saw that a lot of people were you know, hitting the bricks this week, headed over to that Parler website.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, that was another thing that Mike and I were talking about before.
And it's like, go ahead. Go to your safe zone with, you know, your echo chamber of people that you are accusing me of having.
Listen, if you can't find people that relate to your mindset in most places, maybe there's something wrong with your mindset, you know?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, a lot of these people are saying, well, we're getting shut down and shut out of places like Facebook and Twitter. You know, they're zucking us, and they're you know, deleting our tweets and, you know, shutting us down, banning us, shadow banning, etc. And we want a free place to espouse our views.
Right, which is funny, by the way, because like I mentioned to you earlier before we came on, you know, I know like 3 or 4 people just this week that got zucked, and they're all anti-Trump people. But, you know, somebody's got to be a victim, which is always the way.
So AOC went on the record saying that everybody should be out there basically screen capping all the nonsense that you see so that it's on record so it can't be deleted.
I'm 100% with it.
You know what? People should be on Parler, just capping everything.
I'm 100% with it, and I think it's ridiculous that people are even criticizing her for it and trying to say that it's censorship. Like,
nope.
No, we want people to
record.
know that what you like. You're trying to hide what you said. Who's censoring what?
Mm-hmm.
But I said that a long time ago because I said it when Obama was president because you had all these people talking shit, saying all kinds of racist shit, and then they're losing their jobs or they're getting kicked out of their college or whatever, and then people are like, oh, well, I don't understand. It's going to ruin this person's career, this and that. And it's like, yeah.
They ruined their own career.
That's how these things work. You say stupid, racist shit, you get the boot.
See, like, we come on this show week after week now, talk about whatever it is that we have to talk about. But I would stand behind every word I've said on this show because I don't feel like I've gone across any line in doing so.
No. I mean, listen, we talk a lot of shit about Trump and shit like that.
We've talked shit about Biden.
Talk shit about Biden. Talk shit about a lot
about Kamala Harris.
Right.
Like
And I back every word of it. And if I'm wrong, and I think you operate the same way, if I'm wrong, I'll go back and I'll say I was wrong.
Yep. I have no problem admitting where I was wrong.
Somewhere in the catalog of the podcast, you might find me going back and saying, you know what? I was wrong.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect.
As long as you can admit that you were wrong, we can all move forward.
And I have no problem admitting that I'm wrong. But sadly, since we started this podcast a couple months ago,
we ain't been wrong once yet.
We ain't been wrong at all. And we're continuing that streak because let's see if Trump actually leaves the White House willingly.
Yo, I want to be there when they literally drag him out. I want to see him get tossed out. I want to see him get tossed out like Jazzy Jeff on Fresh Prince when Uncle Phil would toss him right out the front fucking door. That's what I want to see.
Oh, I don't know. We may have a little road trip. According to John Wren.
Me, you, and John Wren.
Yeah, that could happen. I'm with it, man.
Hey,
I'm totally as long. Well, I don't know. I may reconsider that depending on what the tear gas stock is down there. I may rethink that.
I don't know. I mean, I would roll. I would definitely roll down, especially with the two of you.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to not get tear gas, but we'll see.
I would argue that if the three of us ended up in the car, I know the fourth person that would end up in the car with us. You haven't met him yet, but or at least directly that I can remember, Brian Yan. He would. Oh
yeah, I've heard you mention his name a few times.
I have a large feeling that he would be the fourth man in, and that car would be full of mayhem. The four of us rolling down, no good.
Oh boy, yeah, I'm down. But listen, like I said, we haven't been wrong yet. We've seen these things come. The only thing you could say we didn't predict, I wouldn't say we were necessarily wrong, was that we didn't really anticipate just how close this shit would be.
I don't know. I remember saying that if Biden wins, it's not going to be a blowout. I remember saying that.
That's true. We did say that because I remember saying we would like it to be a blowout.
No, it would have been sweet pickings if it was a blowout.
If it was anybody but Biden, it would probably be a blowout, which is, a whole other thing in itself.
I think I'm going to go back on that argument. I actually do think that he's the only one that could have actually won.
You think so?
Yep.
Not Bernie?
Bernie, maybe. But so many people like to say that Biden is a socialist or a communist or whatever, and he's aligning with the left. Bernie was actually aligned with the left. And I don't know I know the young people would have still come out for him, but the centrist moderate vote and the Republican line crossers may not have come across.
Right. Well, they really went out of their way to paint that picture.
They definitely did.
This time around. But I also think we'll go on with your thought. because this is going to take us in a whole other direction.
I don't want to paint it as I think that the DNC made the right choice. I think they made the wrong choice. But their choice ended up working out in their favor on the long play on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a number of 99% of the time Republican voters who are not trash people, who chose to cross the line because they see Biden as somebody that is a known quantity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They already know he's got 40, 50 years of service. They know exactly what he's going to do in there. And they also know that they had a feeling that the houses were not going to flip over to Democrats. So even if he had some wild plans, he's never going to get through them. This is a safer choice than keeping the orange clown in line. So they jumped across.
Right.
I don't know if a Bernie would have done that. A Warren might have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the concern of running a woman against Trump, and are enough white men okay with having a woman tell them quote unquote what to do because she's your president? You know what I mean? Are they at that point where they would have accepted that more than Biden? And right. I'm not convinced that that is the truth.
Well, here's what I was going to get at, because now looking at this in hindsight, it's a little less clear than it was before, because I didn't expect it to be a blowout, but it was really, really close. Little bit surprising in how close it was. And it does make me wonder, like what you said, that maybe Bernie wouldn't do it. I think if they put Bernie up in 2016, I think he would have done it.
If Bernie was up in 2016, he would have wiped the floor with Trump.
Yeah. But I think they spent so much time painting the socialist picture, and also just breeding this new generation of just mindless people. Like, the fact that there's people even now just die hard backing Trump.
It's embarrassing. They're embarrassing them.
It really is embarrassing. It was embarrassing before, but now it's even more embarrassing seeing them just throw themselves out there, and this whole stop the steal thing and all this bullshit.
Did you see the video of the Trumpers dancing the Rage Against the Machine?
Oh, yeah.
How divorced from reality do you have to be?
But that's the whole thing. It's just stupid, and it's blatantly stupid, and it's the same thing that you and I talked about for months. It's like the war on common sense, idiocracy, all of these subjects that we've talked about all just rolled into one. Because these people are stupid, they're happy to be stupid, and not only are they happy to be stupid, they're reveling in their stupidity. Not only are they stupid, but they're like, look at how stupid I am.
But also, you got to add on that they're mad at you for not being as stupid as they are.
Exactly.
And it's just embarrassing.
It really is. But this is where we've been headed.
Like, my argument on Facebook the other day, it really comes down to the fact that I would state that almost none of us really want Biden, but we really did not want Trump. And this goes back to your argument, even just from last week, of you're checking a box for anybody but Trump.
Right.
All these Trump people seem to think that we all want Biden. Like, they're so divorced from reality that they're legitimately not even paying attention to the temperature of what's going on around them.
Yeah, but here's part of that, which is something that a lot of people don't realize. They're not the only ones who think we want Biden. The Democrats think that too.
Yeah, we don't want Biden.
And the Democrats still haven't learned a goddamn thing. And this takes me in the direction that I want to go, which is, a little earlier I was watching the Young Turks, like I often do, and they're talking about, there's a whole thing now because a bunch of Democrats lost in their elections to the House and the Senate. And at this point, there are people on both sides, Republican and Democrat, basically blaming those losses, saying that those losses were because the party is going too far left and that the socialists are, they're the ones that almost or that cost or almost cost, because there were a few people that came close but won. The socialists, the ones that are far left, those are the ones that almost cost them their seats. Meanwhile, as the Young Turks pointed out, because they're openly progressive, there were a bunch of progressive candidates that all won, including AOC.
Yep.
Because she was up for re-election, and she won
hand over fist
pretty easily. And let me tell you, living here in the Bronx, I saw ads for the dude that was running against her constantly. Every ad that I got on YouTube, because I watch YouTube a lot on my TV, on my Fire Stick, every ad that would come up was that dude who is from Parkchester, which, like, I could look out the window here and see Parkchester. Like, it's right across the train tracks from my house.
Right.
And they're blaming these progressive people. Meanwhile, the progressives all won their shit. And
well, that's because they're out doing grassroots work.
Right.
Actually talking to the people and then following through on the things that people want them to follow through on.
And here's what drives me nuts. Because, I agree with the Young Turks on a lot of things, because they say, Democrats have no teeth. They just lay down and die. They don't fight. They don't put up any fight at all, which is absolutely true. But here's my problem. If you're a progressive and you think that the Democrats are ever going to let you do anything, you're out of your fucking mind. Because look at what they did with Bernie, and no matter what promises they make to you, that they're going to try and incorporate you into their agenda, this and that. There's already talk that, like, Biden is trying to be super bipartisan. So
he said he was going to do that.
Yeah. So supposedly one of those things is that they told him, don't put in any progressive candidates.
Yeah, for all the the seats in the cabinet.
So whatever promises they were making to people, they're not going to follow through on. So
which is just trash.
Right, but that's typical.
But that's the way it works.
Well, once again, like I've always said, the Democrats don't learn anything. Because they'll never stand up to the Republicans and be like, yo, fuck off. We're going to put progressives in if we want. And as I've said before, I don't necessarily identify as anything, but I guess the progressive agenda is kind of what I find more appealing to me. I find a lot more in common with that stuff than anything else. And at this point, the Democratic Party is just Republican light.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans are Republicans, and it's funny to watch them all climbing all over each other because they don't want to alienate their base, which is now just the hardline assholes, the hardline racists and hicks, and just like that's where we're at now. That's the Republican base.
I mean, technically, we could split this whole thing into four.
Four
parties.
Go ahead. What are the four? Because I see three. I don't know if I see four.
You got the real Republicans that should exist. You've got the real Democrats that should exist. They're not too far apart. They're different, but not too far apart. They're the middle. They're the big piece in the middle.
Right.
And then you got your hardline right and your and your actual Progressive Party.
Right.
Those are the four parties that I see right now.
Okay.
And, like, if you take out all the hardline right Republicans, which are really just Trumpers, and just slide them over into the, the super right, and then you get the actual Republican Party back to where it was, and the Democratic Party basically stays where it is. You've got those two large chunks and then two other parties. Let those assholes all the way on the right run their candidates and lose.
Right. Well, the sad part is that right now those guys have a lot of power because everybody's trying to cater to them, because they may not be huge, but they're vocal. Yeah. And they're bigger than we thought, because look at the election numbers.
Well, some of that election numbers are just regular old Republicans that just won't vote Democrats.
Right.
They just won't do it because that's not their party line. They may not fully agree with Trump, but they have decided that sticking to their party is more important to them than crossing the line.
Right.
Those people do exist inside the blur.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, at this point, you've got these progressive candidates. You've got a bunch of them in important spots in Congress. You got Bernie Sanders, who's been screwed twice and is still a senator. So you've got some people that have some power. Mm-hmm. At this point, the Democratic Party is going to do nothing for you. They're never going to put you in a spot like, if you actually have the balls to try to be a presidential candidate, they'll do you like they did Bernie. Or you probably won't even get that far. Bernie had the years on him, so that's how he got that far. At this point now, because if I'm the Democrats, I'm embarrassed. Yeah, Biden won, but I'm embarrassed by those numbers. And I'm embarrassed by the fact that you lost those seats in Congress. Because this should not have been as close as it was. And at this point, I don't think there's a better time than now for the progressives to take themselves and try to flip themselves into something bigger, which would be a new political party, because those candidates are not served by their own party. Those people, normal people, which includes you and me, we're not served by either party.
Nope, not at all.
Because we talked about Biden, like, yeah, we voted Biden, but we didn't want to. We voted not Trump. Mm-hmm. And a lot of other people did too.
I mean, that's how Hillary got my vote, was not Trump.
Right.
Because I knew better 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But I think there is no better time than now, and it drives me crazy, like I said, because I see the guys like the Young Turks, because they're very involved in supporting the progressive candidates and stuff. They have them on their shows. It drives me crazy to see those guys talking about trying to take over the party, like the party's ever going to do anything for them. To me, it's like damaged goods. Like, why would you want to buy a brand that's been run into the ground? Build a new brand.
One of our guests, Ren, he's been on the show a few times, made a post that he's looking forward to AOC running in a few years.
Yeah.
She cannot run on a Democratic ticket.
No, they'll never give her. They'll never give her the support that she deserves. But Bernie was the same thing. Like I said, all you got to do is look at what happened with Bernie. I mentioned it when Bernie was in the primaries with Hillary. If you looked at the Democratic Party website, you had the two of them in primaries, so they're basically equal candidates at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Party website had no mention of Bernie Sanders whatsoever. It was all Hillary, 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 Hillary.
Well,
Donald Trump.
They had already picked.
Yeah. Donald Trump mentioned Bernie more than the Democrats did. They never took him seriously as a candidate. And AOC, listen, no matter how hard you try, in the end, it's much like pro wrestling. It's like you see somebody that's over with the crowd, but they're never going to give that guy the push.
Yep.
No matter what you do, they're never going to give that guy the spotlight that he needs to get to that next level. And they're going to do the same thing with AOC. So at this point, if I were these candidates, I'd be setting the stage and looking into things and laying the groundwork for trying to do something new and just completely separate from the Democratic Party.
So if you were naming a new party, what would you name it?
I don't know.
Because that's my whole thing is, like, I'm thinking about this. What could they name it to be not necessarily catchy? Because it's not about being catchy, but it needs to be meaningful.
Well, in the age of keywords, there's obviously certain things that you should avoid. I don't know if they want to use the word progressive or not. They certainly don't want to use the word socialist.
Of course not.
Which is what they're going to get called anyway. But that's just, that's more keyword bullshit, because for all the talk about socialist this and socialist that, like, most of these idiots don't even understand what real socialism is.
They don't understand that we already live in a socialist society.
Yeah. Social Security.
Your trash. Fire. Police.
Let me ask you a question.
Public schools.
Have you ever had to call the fire department?
Not me personally, but, right. God willing, I won't have to.
Right. Well, same here. But you know what? We pay for it.
Yep.
That's like textbook definition socialism. You're paying for it. Hopefully you never have to use it, but you pay for it so it's there if you need it.
We'd use it for that, for the police, for schools, trash, sewer. Like, you can just keep running down the list. Our mail system is a socialist.
Well, it's
failing, but it's failing because we choose to let it fail.
Right.
But regardless, there are lists and lists and lists of things that are socialist in nature that we all take advantage. Our roads, our whole road system is a socialist movement.
But the whole thing is that, and this is why it's a keyword thing. They push the socialism thing so hard, which, okay, there's some people in the party that have more socialist ideas. Joe Biden's certainly not one.
Not him. It's not him.
Not at all.
You know what? It makes me want to throw my entire monitor off my desk every time I have to fucking read somebody call Joe a socialist or a communist. He's the farthest fucking thing from it.
But that's that keyword shit, and that's what ended up costing him votes down in Florida, because all these old Cubans, the second they hear socialism, they think back to Fidel and they freak the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Trump got a significant, Latin vote, especially down in Florida, where there's a large contingent of Cubans.
So,
but it's that keyword shit. All they do is work those keywords, and it's like I said, it's idiocracy. These people are so dumb. The same dummies. What's that?
I saw a vote by map, and literally all the cities in which the Cuban contingent went blue.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I had read that there was a good sizable number in Florida specifically that voted for Trump.
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now. Florida county election analysis. Let's see here. I guess Miami-Dade went more. Yeah, here, let me send you this link. I'll send it on the book. And you're right that it looks like more, but still, if you look at Miami as a whole, it went blue.
Right. Yeah, but the numbers,
shifted harder.
Trump's numbers were way higher than they were 4 years ago.
Yeah, by like on a magnitude of almost times 3.
Right. But that's, that's what I had read, and that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But that keyword thing is all it takes, because these people, it's like I said, it's idiocracy. These people, everybody talked about like Russian interference using social media, this and that. The problem isn't the Russian interference. The problem is the gullible dopes that are so easily swayed by that stuff. Mm. And that's what everybody counts on. And I know we've talked about it before, because I talk about the old days when I used to work in the music business, and you're steering people a certain direction, using a radio, and like, what do you listen to? Oh, whatever's on Z100, or whatever's on Total Request Live. There's a lot of people that just want to be spoon-fed. So now it's easier to spoon-feed than ever, because all you do is use these keywords. And that would be the biggest battle when it comes to naming a new party, because you've got to pick a keyword that is going to produce positive results and not have some negative connotation. Because no matter what, they're going to do stuff like socialist, communist, shit like that. Defund the police. All of these things, and most people don't fully understand these terms or what they mean.
No, they're just keywords that people jump on.
Because
they heard somebody say something about it once, and then that one thing they heard is the thing that they believe.
Right, because look, Joe Biden, not a socialist, but they kept pushing the socialist thing. Those keywords keep showing up for people and drilling people's heads. Joe Biden, not one who wants to defund the police
at all.
It's not.
And he hired somebody that literally was a prosecutor,
right,
on the side of the police as his vice president. Neither one of these people are actually looking to defund the police. Shut the fuck up with that.
But that's the whole thing, because all it takes is for you to drill that keyword, and that's what people remember. That's what all of this comes down to. And that's why the numbers ended up being what they were, because in the end, people will forget everything else. They'll just remember, oh, they say he's a socialist. And that's enough to scare people away. We're in this keyword society. People don't do the research. People don't use their brains. I mean, Jesus Christ, look at this QAnon shit.
I can't take these people. I can't take it.
But meanwhile, here's a good one for you. I don't know if you heard this yet. You know about the whole Four Seasons construction thing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. If you're listening to this and you haven't heard about it, number one, get your head out from under that rock. And number two, look it up, because Trump's people were having a press conference. Giuliani was going to go talk a lot of shit about lawsuits. And they booked the Four Seasons. Did they book the Four Seasons Hotel?
Nope.
No. Somehow, some way, somebody booked Four Seasons Total Landscaping, their parking lot, which is right in between Fantasy Island, which is an adult toy store,
and dildo shop,
and a crematorium where they take dead bodies and cremate them.
You couldn't have planned the end of that run any funnier.
Well, it gets better, because Giuliani talked a bunch of shit, but then they had another guy come up.
The guy from Trenton.
Yeah, who is a
convicted pedophile, sex offender. Yeah,
well, it depends on your definition of pedophile. He exposed himself to 2 children ages 7 and 11, I believe.
That's pedophile for me.
Yeah, didn't actually touch them, so that's why I say
that's pedophile action for me.
But that's close enough that, like, you know. But here we are. Let's talk about QAnon, and they're trying to molest children and this and that. But meanwhile, okay, so let's bring up somebody who knows about that stuff.
Somebody, on the ground representative.
What the fuck?
Yeah, bro. It's
what the fuck? Like, you could have booked anybody. You booked that guy?
You could have booked me. I would have showed up.
I mean, you also
would have talked shit, but whatever.
Anywhere instead of, 4 Seasons Total Landscaping.
They might as well book Landmine.
Oh my god. Oh, it hurts.
How do you pull up to that and go, all right, well, I guess we're doing this.
But that's another thing, because this is the real joke of the whole thing, and I have to credit it because I did hear the Young Turks talking about it, and it just made me laugh, so I have to bring up this point again. It's bad enough that they did it, but the fact that the Trump people are trying to play it off like, oh yeah, we meant to do that.
No.
Just
take your L, admit it, that, we didn't do our due diligence whenever we made these fucking phone calls. We didn't check which we called and asked if this was the 4 Seasons, and they said it was. And we asked if we could do something, and they were absolutely happy to do it, and now we here.
Let's face it, okay? Trump is such a high-posting motherfucker. There's no way that he would have signed off on doing
at all
parking lot at a construction place. This is a dude, because I heard, I listened to Howard Stern talking about this morning with Andrew Cuomo. We had Andrew Cuomo on. Donald Trump keeps a plane. I'm assuming it's JFK, one of the New York airports. He keeps a plane there. It doesn't fly, but it has his name on it. And he just pays to park it there just so that people can see it.
Ridiculous.
So he's going to do that shit, but then you think he's going to stoop to a fucking construction parking lot?
Absolutely not.
But no, we meant to do that.
So I know where this 4 Seasons location is generally. Like, I know the area in which it's at. They could have made a last-second decision and moved to a park. There are, like, 6 parks within, like, a 5-minute drive from that location that would have been a much nicer setting, and they could have said, hey, we just decided to do it in a park because we wanted to be outside during a pandemic, and we didn't want to have people close to each other. And they could have made it look pretty normal. And nobody would have batted an eyelash at it at all.
No, Trump already posted on Twitter that it's at the 4 Seasons.
Right. Idiots.
It's so ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, we meant to do that.
Was Borat on the other line when Nico and Giuliani's people called?
Fall down a whole flight of stairs. Oh, I meant to do that.
Oh God. It's just a full-on clown show. The whole time I've been saying it's a clown show, and they just continue to prove it out.
Oh, it just hurts. It's so stupid. It hurts. Like, all these people, but then on top of that, no matter what these guys do,
their people
are all in, and I can't even, like. But it just goes to what I said. Like, these people want to be spoon-fed. They want to be led around by the leash. They're totally okay with just giving everything over and letting somebody else completely control them.
So, let me ask you this. Now that it's been quote-unquote called for Biden and he's president-elect, and he's out here he's already on the ground doing work. him and Kamala have a plan that's already been released for coronavirus, containment and working on it, etc. The way that Trump is attempting to roadblock this thing for him, do you think there's any way this gets flipped?
Flipped how?
Somehow, there's an injunction and they change the way the votes went. They say, hey, you weren't allowed to keep those votes because or whatever. Do you think there's any way they're going to screw Biden at this point?
I think they're hoping that there's a way.
No, I'm not talking about Trump's people. I'm talking about just outside of the reality, the fake reality of Trump. I'm talking about in real reality. Do you think that there's some way that this is going to get flipped around?
Well, but you got to remember something. You can't separate the two, because this is why they pushed to get Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. Right. This is why he fucked with the mail. This is why he told his people to go in person and vote. Like, all of this shit all goes with the plan. And I think Trump, much like what happened with coronavirus, where Trump had this plan to leave it to the governors and that he would come in and sweep it up and magically make it disappear. This was all another failed plan. He thought that by fucking up the mail, it would keep the numbers down. But as with a lot of his fucking harebrained schemes, didn't work out for him. They could try to push it, but at this point, the number of votes that they could really negate is probably not going to be enough.
Right. That's my thing.
And I think he was counting on it to go a little differently, and it backfired. Because in the end, all the shit that he did just brought more attention to it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you could have all these people out there protesting for Stop the Steal, this and that. That ain't going to do shit. But if the numbers fell a certain way, which they did, even if you negate a decent number of those ballots, it's not enough to give him a win. It's just not. And
so apparently Barr told federal prosecutors to look into unsupported allegations of voting irregularities.
Yeah, well, once again,
his henchmen.
It's another harebrained scheme with him and his henchmen that may not really work the way he plans it. I think the numbers, I think he was hoping that the numbers would be set in a way that would benefit him, and that's not really the way the Electoral College numbers worked out.
You got bitch McConnell out there saying that Trump is, within his rights to look into the allegations of the irregularities as well. Which is very non-committal, by the way. Like that's, of course, but it's still lockstep. That's some serious, but that's some serious line stepping. Like, he's not putting his support behind him. He's just saying, he has the right to do whatever. But you don't see it, because a lot of the other, like Lindsey Graham and a lot of these other guys are all like, oh, well, they stole it and they're stealing it and blah, blah, blah. But Mitch McConnell, as much as I hate him, part of the reason why I hate him is because he's a slick motherfucker. Mm-hmm. And that's him being slick, because he's very non-committal. You don't see him backing one way or the other. He's just saying, he's well within his rights. So when Obama transitioned to Trump, they had a couple meetings.
Yeah.
And it was promoted, etc. And it was largely not contentious at all. Obama handled it like a gentleman.
Right.
You could tell that he was not happy about it, but he also was not going to be the guy to just stand there and thumb his nose.
Right. And he did leave him a pandemic playbook, which is really nice of him.
We all know that if and when the time comes, January 20 whatever, that it will not be a smooth transition. And Joe can just damn near forget having a meeting with Trump. It's not happening.
Can I tell you something?
What? He don't need it, but I'm just saying.
The White House is going to look like a hotel room that Poison stayed in.
Pretty much. He's gonna wreck the whole motherfucking thing.
Like they're probably going to glue the furniture to the ceiling. They're probably going to throw TVs out the windows. Like, it's going to be wrecked like a fucking hairband hotel room. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a total wreck. They're probably going to set the furniture on fire. It's going to be like the eviction crew was going in there.
So, it, much like we've already discussed for the last 3.5 months, now it's at the point where all of our statements are coming to fruition. It's going to be a fucking shit show when it's actually time come January 21st for this transition. And not just in the White House. I wholeheartedly believe that we all across the nation need to be diligently on guard and paying attention to what the craziest members of our society are thinking about doing because their candidate lost. Because much like them calling us snowflakes, it was really just them looking in the mirror, because we weren't out trying to kill people or set things on fire because Trump was in. Sure, we all complained about it, and we complained about it verbally for months, but none of us did anything along the lines of what I can tell some of these people are gearing up to do.
Yeah.
So, I'm not reveling in the idea that these people are going to cause this kind of havoc in any stretch, but I am also not blind to the fact that it's coming.
Well, one of the funny things that I've noticed when it comes to those people is that they are the worst type of hypocrites, because everything that they accuse the other side of doing
is what they do.
Mm-hmm. They went on and on about how, the Democrats are still salty about 2016, but no matter what, Democrats were never as salty as these motherfuckers are right now.
Nope.
Never. There
was nobody laying in the street crying.
Right. And there's so many different examples that I can give you of just different behavior that these people are like, oh, well, I can't believe that they did that. And then they do the exact same thing.
Yep. It's constant.
Yeah.
Constant.
And it's sad. And it would be one thing, it would be one thing if you were pissed off and you lost, but to basically repeat that same behavior that you were very critical of, that's completely hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be like, oh, well, they did it, so why can't I? But you know what? Like, if you have a certain standard, live by your standard.
But they don't live by their standard.
No, they don't. And that's a big part of the problem. But that to me is why I think a lot of it is very hypocritical and very poor.
Hey man, and I took that Trump loss or win on the chin. You know what? I was upset that he won. I'm obviously still, as I said, not a Hillary fan, but I I rode for her in the 24th hour, just hoping to not have to deal with the Trump thing when she lost. I was bummed that she lost, but I didn't cry about the loss. I was upset that I knew I was going to have to deal with some bullshit.
Right.
There is no bullshit that's going to have to be dealt with Joe Biden. At all. And if you seem to think that there is going to be some actual bullshit, you're lying to yourself.
There will be bullshit, but it's not because of him.
It's not that kind of bullshit.
It's not his bullshit.
Right. That's what I mean.
But I think you're right. I think the biggest worry is just what the worst people are capable of, because the fact is Trump is riling up the worst people.
And he's continuing to do it.
And he's continuing to do it even after people are trying to talk him out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's his thing right now. It's been his thing the whole time.
Yeah, supposedly his own family is trying to talk him out of it, but he's nonstop. He's planning to do rallies. He's planning to do all types of shit.
Because he's unhinged.
Yeah.
And he's been unhinged.
Yeah.
And the worst part is there's a large faction of people who happen to reside in this country that are unhinged with him.
Right. Yeah, and it's going to be a mess.
Like, imagine if, just for a minute, if somebody had been riding for Hillary that hard and was trying to say all the things that he says, but about him, the uproar there would have been. Oh. But it never happened.
Right.
Because she lost. People were upset that she lost, but they moved on in a day or two.
Well, she wasn't out there riling them up, trying to get them out in the fucking streets.
She took it on the chin twice. She lost to fucking Obama, waited 8 years, and then lost to Trump. Yeah. And she still kept on pushing, and she's still out there making money. Like, I may not be a Hillary fan, but the lady keeps on moving. I can't knock that.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about her, but you know, that's a whole other story. But you know, I just think, like you said, you know, he's riling up people. He's riling up the worst type of people, and he's been condoning it, because look at all these people that are out in the streets with the guns, and he's totally encouraging it.
So apparently Joe actually put out the list of people who are on his advisory board for COVID-19.
Yes.
So Dr. Zeke Emanuel, Dr. Atul Gawande, and a Trump administration whistleblower, Rick Bright.
Oh boy, that's gonna get people's panties in a knot.
Yep. But he's the guy that actually blew the whistle on Trump, not necessarily that he was in cahoots. So it's a positive,
right? In
that he's definitely on the right side of what needs to get done.
Yeah, but that'll mean he's part of the deep state.
Of course. So it's so fucking painful, but I love the fact that the man already has a team together, and it's been 2 days since he was given the official nod for the nomination.
Yeah. Well, he knows, you know, part of that is that he knows he's got to have his shit together, because like you were talking about before with the transition, there's going to be no transition. There's going to be no meetings. There's going to be no nothing. He's going to have it set up so that they can go in with no help and just jump into the chair and steer the thing.
You're right, 100%.
I mean, I don't even know at this point. Like, we've seen so much shit that we never thought we would ever see. So, like, I don't know where it's going to stop. You know what I mean? Like, it's the racism shit, the gun shit, people going to polling places. Like, people were going to where they were counting ballots.
And trying to get them to stop.
Trying to get them to stop, but there were people going there with guns and shit. It's like, whoa.
It's like, yo, chill the fuck out.
Like, what are you going to do? Shoot the ballots?
They would shoot the ballots if they could.
Well, it's like what I said when people were out there about coronavirus with the guns. Like, what are you going to shoot the virus? Like, what does guns do except, trying to show people you think you have a big dick?
Well, that's all they care about is
right, but
big dicking anything.
But that's why...
usually they ain't got big dicks.
But that's what I'm talking about. That, like, I know gun people, and they're cool, and they're not out of control, but there are a lot of gun people that think that shit is, like, that's their big dick move. Like... Yeah. Let me go wave my gun around and everybody will chill the fuck out. Like, that's some fucking weak shit. Like, the gun people that I know aren't trying to do shit like that.
Right.
But, we're also not talking about people in an open carry state. But I think either way, they'd be smart enough that they don't need to do that.
So did you see that they have 90% effectiveness on some... Pfizer's saying they have 90% effectiveness on a vaccine?
That's... Yeah, I saw that this morning, and then it blew the stock market up, and, everybody's getting hopeful about it.
I don't trust any vaccine that they got done this fucking quick, but 90% effective sounds good to me as a good starting point for where they need to be. And they said that I think they're only at 30 days of information on it, and right. They want to wait until they have 2 to 3 months worth of, actual information on this thing. So I'm not gonna hold my fucking breath. But if it holds, that's good. Because if we can get it, if 90% effectiveness is the truth, and we can get it to 90% of the people, we can go back to normal.
Yeah, I'm very cautiously optimistic about it. I'll keep an eye on it. I think, I think the confidence in it improves a little bit with Trump eventually not being involved. Mm-hmm. However, we all know that no matter who is president, the government is still very much intertwined with big corporations in general.
Just idiocy in general.
Right. Well, big corporations in general, but especially pharmaceutical companies. So, I'll take a wait and see about it. But since there's more time to go, I'll just keep an eye on it and see, and I won't make any judgments at this point in time. I think, as I've said before, I think one of the biggest casualties of Trump's presidency is just a general distrust of the government, and by extension, like I said, because of the connection, the government and corporations in general, because, of the role that they play in all this. And Trump has just brought it more to the forefront, especially when it comes to the whole vaccine thing.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what the perceptions are post-Trump. You know what I mean? Like how that trust is going to be under a new administration.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
This is kind of a sidestep, but it's important. Did you watch on Netflix The Social Dilemma?
No.
Okay. You need the man to man. You need to watch it, and then also go on. And I hate to even mention this, but go on and watch the Joe Rogan episode with the guy who did that video. Because it'll make you want to burn your entire phone, computer, everything. And it's really changed how I use the internet as a whole. We know that they're collecting information on us.
Oh, yeah.
And they're using it against us. But the depth at which level they're doing it wasn't really evident to me. Like, I knew it was going on, but I didn't know it was so bad until I watched the two of those pieces, and now I'm like actively not paying attention to a lot of things on there because I'm not trying to feed their machine any harder than I need to. But part of it is that where you're going with how things will change and the perceptions will change, it almost doesn't matter how good the news is, because basically if you were to go on and watch a video, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever, since they're all interconnected anyway,
right?
Let's just say you watched one video on a conspiracy of some sort, whether it's vaccination or whatever. The next time you go on the Facebook, they're going to start feeding you things to push you down the rabbit hole in the wrong direction. It's always towards the negative, because the negative is what gains more traction with people.
Yeah.
Positive results never, ever push things positively, and they will never suggest you something that will lift you up. They want to keep you in the hole. So I fear that even if there is something positive that comes, like a vaccine, so many people have been pushed down the negative hole that nobody's going to believe that it's actually real.
Well, that's just an extension of what I was saying before. But see, I'm a dude who searches out my own answers.
You are, but so many people are not.
There are plenty of people that just want to be spoon-fed, like we were talking about before. So it all plays into that. My opinion on that stuff may be a little controversial, but it's how I feel. And I've said before, I'm not one of these anti-vax type people or anything like that. Just in general, it's already too fucking late. I think privacy is a myth in this culture. When you think about debit cards, when you think about Easy Pass, when you think about Metro cards, think about how everything is pushed to be on your phone now, like, because they're trying to do that. Like, their eventual plan with the Metro card for the subway in New York is to remove it and just use your phone.
Right. They want to get rid of they want to go digital. And actually, that was one of my arguments. And I hate that I feel like I'm buying some conspiracy nonsense by thinking this, but I was thinking it before the conspiracy, winds started blowing my direction in this case.
Yeah.
But as soon as this COVID shit hit, I noticed that a lot of places were like, hey, we're cashless now.
Right.
Now, everywhere I go, they're like, there's a coin shortage. In what fucking world is there an actual coin shortage? They're just not sending the coins back out. They're pulling them out of the system. There is no shortage.
Right. Well, yeah. It all feeds in the same direction. But I'm to the point now listen, unless you're gonna go completely off the grid on some Unabomber shit,
you got
privacy
you're already
is a
in
myth.
it.
Privacy is a myth because now, forget about Easy Pass, okay? Because now more and more tolls are cashless.
Oh yeah, I know.
Which means that if you don't have an Easy Pass, they're just taking a picture of your license plate and you're getting billed that way. So they track your movements whether you have Easy Pass or not. Debit cards, any kind of computer usage at all, especially your cell phone, which is what everybody uses for just about everything nowadays. If you want privacy,
You gotta get off the grid completely, and they don't even want you to be off the grid.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
You'd have to have.
They'll find ways to keep you from getting off the grid because there are states that still have regulations against solar power, which is a way for you to keep yourself off the grid.
Right.
So I've already resolved myself, and that's part of the reason why I haven't watched it because I know it's just going to piss me off. But I've already
be pissed off with me.
Yeah, I've already resolved myself to the fact that privacy is a myth. It's just done because if you own a cell phone,
nothing private about it.
If you have a bank account with a debit card,
nothing private about it.
If you have credit cards, if you do any kind of business online, which is what everybody does now, and it was always that way, and coronavirus just pushed it a little more.
So let me put it this way.
We were already headed off that cliff anyway.
I went to the store, and I bought something.
Mm-hmm.
It's at Home Depot. I didn't even talk out loud while I was in the store. I didn't tell anybody where I was going. I didn't tell anybody why I was there. I didn't talk to anybody at the store. I made the purchase. I get in my car, and I go to my destination, and then I start installing said part. I open up Instagram, and they're trying to sell me the part I just bought.
Yep.
Like, literally, the exact part I just bought. They're like, do you need more of these?
Yeah.
How did that purchase go? Because the credit card companies are tied in with the companies in which you purchased from, which are then tied into some internet database that then feeds back information to everyone, and the whole system is rigged against you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, listen.
That's why they don't want you to buy in cash, because if you buy in cash, it's harder to track.
Right. But at this point, so few people are paying in cash. It's like the game's already lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talk about the Young Turks. I sit here watching Young Turks videos sometimes on my TV. Other than being on the same account, me and my girlfriend's cell phones, there's not any accounts that we share. Like, she's got her own, well, we share Amazon, but other than that, like, she's got her own Grubhub account and like whatever other stuff she might use on her phone, like her own bank account. There's no relation between our accounts. But I'm sitting there watching the Young Turks, and then she gets an ad on Facebook for the Young Turks. Shit happens all the time, and it's been happening for years.
See, they stopped showing me the Young Turks on Facebook for some reason. Mm-hmm. I didn't tell them to stop because I was watching them on there forever, but I must have watched something that made them think that I wouldn't be interested in it anymore.
Okay.
But I would be. So Facebook, if you're listening, toss them back in there. I'm more than willing and interested in listening to them.
Right. I mean, I subscribe, and like I'm always going to their channel to look at shit. Like, mm-hmm. I don't make a habit of just like, sometimes, yeah, you'll go down a YouTube rabbit hole, but I make a habit of going to the content creators that I like instead of just waiting for them
to pop
to
up
suggest shit to me all the time.
See, I have...
It's a spoon-fed thing, like I said about Z100 before and stuff like that. Like, I don't wait for them to spoon-feed me my content. Like, yeah, they'll suggest something to me and I might watch it.
So, on my YouTube channel, like my YouTube subscriptions, you know, I have a number of things that I follow that I intentionally followed, but I never actually went looking for the Young Turks on YouTube.
Right.
So that's why it hasn't ever been on my subscription list where I would automatically, you know, see who I'm, you know, all the things I'm subscribed to. But if I look at my subscription list, it's 50% studio people. So I got like Backroom Studios and JHS Pedals and music things. I got Redman and Rick Beato, like those guys. Then I also have like the people who do adventures, like urban exploration. So
yeah, I've got a few of those.
Ace's Adventures, Dan Bell, who's the other guys? The Proper People and Uncharted Travel, like a couple of those guys. And then the last thing I have are my podcast people, which are like Eugene S. Robinson. And then as well, he is part of another group of people that do political talk, much like we do, called If the Shoes Fit. It's him, Alexi Ald, and Nate. I don't know, they call him Kid Nate. And then otherwise, that's about it for me. It's like music or music related stuff, adventure stuff, and then political shit. And that's it. But I haven't added enough political shit to my list. I
have a ton of different shit. Like, I have music related stuff like Rick Beato, you know, random things that post regularly about music history, but then also like guitar repair stuff and things like that. And then a lot of wrestling stuff, a lot of like theme park related stuff. Like there's a channel called Defunct Land that does a lot of good stuff.
Okay.
Talking about theme parks or theme park rides that no longer exist.
Yeah, no, I've been on Defunct Land a number of times.
But then they also will once in a while dip in a different direction, which I know you're down with also, where they might do stuff about like certain like retail chains or something.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they just go into anything that's gone kind of under.
Yeah, they're primarily on the theme park thing, but once in a while they'll go in a different direction with that stuff. And then, you know, a lot of comic book stuff and like movie related stuff.
So you just, you know, convinced me to add the Young Turks to my list, so I won't miss any of their posts going forward. I
actually pay money for the Young Turks because I was like, you know what, they're doing enough. Like, if I'm gonna give money towards something,
you're gonna give it to them.
Like I'll throw these guys a couple bucks a month because it's worth it. Because, like I said, I find that it appeals to me partly because you know, their thoughts and stuff I find are in line with mine, but also they're kind of angry and nasty about shit too, which I like.
I like that they go in.
Look at what we do. You know, they're not like, you watch CNN and they're all nice and like, you know, this dude Cenk is like, these fucking people, you know, like they're pissed off about it and they're salty about it, and I like that shit because that's real to me, like not some fucking, you know, whitewashed bullshit. Like, show me some fucking anger. So
let me ask you this: have you ever watched Beau of the Fifth Column?
I don't think so. Does not sound familiar to me.
I think you would enjoy him just for his sobering view on everything. I'm not going to say he's down the middle. He's definitely a little more left-leaning, but he's still centrist. But he has no problem calling out both sides of the coin. And basically just calling it like it is. And,
Well, his description got me already, because I just looked him up, and he says, the discussions of a Southern journalist who is tired of a lack of common sense.
Yep.
It sounds familiar.
Yes. Which is why I actually follow him. He's one of my political ones that I follow. He's somebody I'm subscribed to. And I just wanted to put him on your radar because I think, and he keeps his discussions fairly short, usually less than 10 minutes.
Unlike us.
Right. Well, we're having a conversation. If either one of us were to actually get on and just do a monologue, it would be about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
We're just bantering back and forth and having a fun conversation, whereas, he's just hitting a point and moving on.
Yeah.
If we were just going to hit a point and move on, it would be 5-10 minutes.
I'm not a monologue type of guy, so...
Speaking of monologues, did you watch the Dave Chappelle monologue yet?
Yes, I did.
I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of people were kind of critical of it, but I say whatever. Fuck that.
I think
people were critical. People were critical of him before. People were critical of Bill Burr.
You know what? Bill Burr's was great too.
Yeah, because I don't have a problem with any of it.
As a comedian, your job is to force thought. And if you didn't think about anything that was said in either one of them, you weren't paying attention.
I did also like his lead into the Aunt Jemima skit.
I didn't see it yet. I didn't see all the skits yet. I need to go through and watch the skits. I just watched the monologue.
They come back from commercial, and Chappelle's still out there, like monologue style.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks a little more, and he says something about, there's a lot of people... There's a lot of black people out there losing their jobs, and this is a skit that kind of revolves around that, and it involves Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. And then Chappelle pops up in that skit also. It's definitely worth it. Do you have Hulu?
I may have Hulu. I can't remember, man.
Okay, because if you didn't DVR it, they put it up on Hulu the next day. So that's where I watched it.
Well, you can get almost all the episodes on, like, the clips out of the episodes right on YouTube. All you gotta do is just type.
Yeah, I've done that before, but I was like, you know what? Hulu's easier. I could just put it on, watch it in order, the way it's supposed to be. Because if you watch it on YouTube, like, it's out of order. It could be random. And shit doesn't make sense. But I will say this: there's a lot of there's a lot of cracking up in this episode, which is pretty damn funny.
I'm here for it.
Is that same Aunt Jemima skit? Because I love when they're doing a skit and they can't keep a straight face.
Yeah. Well, because that's when when you have full on comedy teams that can't hold it together. That's when you know it's really fucking funny. They
crack a few times and it makes it even better. I love it. But yeah, I mean, Chappelle in general is really good, but it goes back to the thing we've said before when we talked about comedy. Comedy sometimes is going to make you uncomfortable. The best comedy will sometimes make you uncomfortable.
It's not good comedy if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, in my opinion. I mean, not everything in the skit needs to be uncomfortable, but overall, there needs to be uncomfortable moments for it to be good comedy.
Right. Because it'll make you sit there and really think. And that's, George Carlin.
Yep. One of the best.
Yeah,
I was actually was it you that I was having a conversation with this past week about some of the best comedy that's ever existed? Was it me and you talking about Chappelle and...
I don't think you and I had that conversation this week, but we have had that conversation before, including, I think, on an episode.
Okay, because somebody hit me up, and we were talking about it, and they were like, look, Chappelle is #1 of all time at this point. And I said, I agree with you that I think he has reached that point, but if we're talking about people that are able to take social commentary and comedy and make them one, there are only 4 greats that have the depth of catalog that you could even have that conversation. And that's Red Fox,
Yep.
George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle. You know, I would say that Chris Rock could have been on there, but he just didn't stay doing the things that he was doing long enough. He dipped out too soon.
I think when it comes to reflecting on current events and shit like that and really putting stuff in perspective, those 4
are the best.
Top. Because there's other guys that are great, but they don't get into current events.
Yep. And it's a totally different situation.
Yeah. Kinnison was too busy talking about sniffing coke.
Yes. And Bill Hicks went away too fast. Yeah.
Bill Hicks was great in his own way.
Yep. But, he died too soon.
Yeah, he certainly did. But I think if Bill Hicks had lived, he could have maybe approached that higher level.
I don't disagree.
Because he was reflective when it comes to that stuff, but he just wasn't there long enough.
And then, for me, one of the funniest people of all time, and also the most real comedian, like most real person of all time doing comedy, like you could not be around this person and him not hit you with comedy, is Patrice O'Neal.
Oh, amazing. Another guy
Again,
who went
gone too soon.
I saw him open for Tracy Morgan once.
And he probably outdid Tracy Morgan.
And
if he didn't, it was close.
If Tracy Morgan was sober, he would have.
Okay. But
Tracy Morgan was whacked off his face.
Was out of it.
Oh, it was hysterical. He was already lit, and he's up there, and like it was at Caroline's in Manhattan, and he's looking at the people at the front tables, and he's like, "Oh, those are nice drinks. What you got there?" And he's like taking sips of their drinks.
Well, this was clearly before COVID.
Yeah. This was like at least like just 15 years ago. This was, I think, before I had kids. Yeah, it had to be like at least 15 years ago. Yeah, he came out in red leather pants, like a frilly white pirate-looking shirt, and a red leather do-rag. And he was just out of his fucking head from the jump.
So he was having a good time.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Well.
And very inappropriate.
Well, I mean, that's his whole thing is inappropriate, so I'm down with that.
No, he's not doing some cultural discussion.
No, not at all.
Unless your idea of cultural discussion is talking about a prostitute in a wheelchair. That's a different kind of cultural discussion.
Yeah. But yeah, Patrice O'Neal is he's missed. I miss that guy.
Oh, for sure. I think when I went to Europe a couple of years ago, I was the only one who had internet on my phone, so we were listening to Patrice O'Neal in the van,
and we were laughing your entire balls off.
In tears. I was just pulling shit up on YouTube, and like we just were crying. It was so damn.
He was the only person that would tell you how it really is, and he didn't care who you were. He was just telling you the truth straight out. No sugarcoating, no bullshit. It was wonderful, but it was also scary. Like I would have never wanted to be at a show of his sitting up front, because that just sounds like you're going to get tore up. And he's going to be merciless.
I can't remember the details of it, but he had a fight on the air when he was on the Opie and Anthony show a lot. He had a fight with somebody. Who was it? I have to look it up. He had a fight with somebody that was just wild.
He was really the only reason I ever listened or watched or whatever Opie and Anthony.
Oh, it was Bill Burr.
Well, they're like best friends, so even if they were in a fight, it wasn't like...
Yeah. They got into like a crazy heavy duty argument on the air.
Imagine arguing between the two of those idiots. Like,
because they're just breaking on each other.
Right, and also that if you step in the middle of that, you are not going to win that.
Oh no. That's like I've known, like you've probably had experience with this, but I've known like everybody knows like some pair of brothers that like they'll get stupid and fight,
but do not attempt to fight. Either one of them. No, don't do it.
Do not step in the middle of that.
Just gotta let it go.
Let that shit go. I've had that experience a few times.
Yeah, so, some shit you gotta let go.
Those are my boys, but like I'm not getting in the middle of that, bro. I'm not.
They've been fighting like this for 20 years. Just let them keep going.
They've been fighting like this for as long as I've known them. Just let it be, y'all. Let it go, man, because it will not work out well for you.
Because they'll slap you up, and then get back to fighting their own fight.
Oh yeah. They'll both turn on you, and when they're done, they'll go back to fighting each other. Oh, no way.
Oh man, I miss good comedy. There's not enough of it. You go on fucking Netflix, and they're like, "Here's the new comedian that just absolutely sucks." Fucking, they suck. Almost all of it. I'm like, I can't watch this, and I just want to go on there and have a good time. I want to put it on in the background while I'm editing something or while I'm doing some work for my regular job, and I can't because none of it is good.
No, and I mean, there's the classic dudes. Burr's hysterical.
Yeah, Burr's hysterical. Yeah,
but I have yet to find somebody new that can do what these guys do.
I like the Michael Che special that they had on there like a while ago.
Never watched it.
I think it's called
kind of funny.
Che Lives Matter or something like that. And it was like a funny title, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll watch this. And I watched it, and it wasn't like, it was funny. So I was just like, yeah, I'll watch it. But it's not like roll on the fucking ground and piss my pants funny. Like Kevin Hart had one or two specials that were funny, but all the other stuff he's done, like all the shitty movies he's made, have ruined my interest in watching him, because I'm like, yo, nah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Pulled the Eddie Murphy on me, and you're not actually just a comedian anymore, and you're like doing something that you clearly aren't good enough to do.
And yet he fills Madison Square Garden. Yeah,
I mean, you know what? I went and saw him live. I did. And it was funny. But then you got these guys like, somebody was like, you should check out John Mulaney. He's really fucking funny. And I'm like, 2 minutes in, I'm like, I think I might kill myself if I sit through this.
Oh.
This is not funny at all.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was not aware of that dude at all, and he hosted Saturday Night Live like a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this dude sucks.
Well, everybody's like, yo, Bert Kreischer is really fucking funny. And I'm like, you know what? I tried to watch it, and it's not fucking funny.
You know who is pretty funny? One of the newer, he's not that new. That dude, Big J Okerson.
He's okay.
It's pretty funny. And there's another dude that he does the like podcast or whatever with. Oh my God, I forgot his name, but he's actually like a Poughkeepsie or Middletown
native
hardcore dude.
Okay. I'd have to look him up.
I've heard him talk about it before. They like he grew up there and used to go to hardcore shows and shit.
So I'm gonna keep railing on people for a second here. You know who's not funny?
Louis J. Gomez. That's the dude.
Okay.
They're both kind of funny.
So you know who else isn't funny? Jim Gaffigan. That shit is terrible.
He has his moments, but I'm not a big fan.
Not a fan. Sebastian Maniscalco. Horrible. Unwatchable.
Don't think I've ever seen him.
Gabriel Iglesias. He can kiss my whole ass. But you know who is funny? Jim Jeffries. I think Jim Jeffries is hilarious.
I don't know if I've really seen too much of his shit.
Dude, watch the last one he put out, which is Jim Jeffries Intolerant. Just put it on and give it a chance. And as you can, like, if you get to the end, I think you might piss yourself.
You know who's really funny just for the stories that he tells? Especially, like, his stand-up is funny, but his podcast is crazy because he gets deep into these stories. Joey Diaz.
Okay, I like Joey Diaz, though. I actually like Joey Diaz. I think overall he's just plain funny. Like, he's just a funny guy.
He's a funny guy, and he's got such crazy stories growing up in, like, North Bergen and then living in California and just sniff a whole bag of Coke.
So, okay, as a kid, I loved Eddie Murphy Delirious and Eddie Murphy Raw.
Yep.
Have you watched them recently? And what I mean recently, I'm talking like within the last 2 years.
2 years, no. I definitely have watched both of them in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know about 2 years. And it's funny because I was talking about Eddie Murphy Raw this weekend because when I was out the other day doing some shopping, we passed by the movie theater where I saw Eddie Murphy Raw when I was a kid.
Okay.
I cut out of high school one day, took the bus up to Westchester, went to Movie Land on Central Avenue, and me and my friends watched Eddie Murphy Raw, and we were definitely too young to be allowed in there.
Yeah.
But they didn't give a fuck.
So, Eddie Murphy Raw is still absolutely hilarious. Delirious is funny, but there are a couple cringe moments in there where I'm like, okay, this was definitely funny when I was young, but it's not really funny to me now.
Really?
Yeah. And not even because of social justice or whatever. I just don't, it's not funny to me anymore.
Yeah.
But the Raw one was so good that it's still hilarious. And I can still repeat 90% of it. It came on the other night, and I'm sitting on my fucking couch just going along with it. Delirious didn't hold up. I was like, man, I actually turned it off. It was playing in the background, and I was just like, yeah, I can't even watch this.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and check that out again.
And you know who's a trash comedian?
Because that was earlier.
Yeah.
That came out in 83. Raw came out in 87.
Yeah.
Well, I think honestly, like 83 is a little too early. But I think if you're in our age range,
Raw was the one.
Raw was probably your cherry popper. Like when it comes to stand-up comedy, like to that level, like that was the one. Like everybody knew about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so did you? And I'm gonna assume you did watch The Kings of Comedy.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan.
Time.
Not a huge fan of Steve Harvey as a comedian. I'm not a huge fan of Cedric the Entertainer as a comedian. They had their moments in their stand-ups. It was funny, but whatever. I actually 100% am not a DL Hughley fan at all. Like, and I actually find most of his set on that painful. But Bernie Mac
is
the one of the
Master.
funniest men who's ever existed
Absolutely.
in the history of doing comedy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it was on Def Jam, on Kings of Comedy, on his dumbass TV show. Like, the man knew how to talk to my soul, and make me laugh.
No, he was hysterical. And you know, I haven't watched Kings of Comedy in a long time, but to me, like, Bernie Mac's way up here,
and everybody else,
and those other three dudes are like,
it was just waiting time.
Yeah.
And when I went to see, I saw it in the theater because it came out in 99 or 2000.
2000.
And I went to the theater to see it, and I'm telling you, when Bernie Mac, even like 10 seconds in his set, I'm already pissing myself. So fucking funny.
Yeah,
and it's such a shame the man is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I definitely was always a big fan of his.
Dude, him on Def Jam was just Def Comedy Jam, just insane funny. And like every single one of his sets that he did on there were just ridiculous. I'm big boned it. I take my shit out, the whole room will get dark. I'm like, yo.
Oh my god.
I'm blessed.
That dude's so funny. And you're right, it doesn't matter what he was doing, even his TV show.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a regular old skit TV show that anybody could have had. They could have made that show about anybody. But he took the show, made it about the stories that he was, talking about in his comedy skits. But he sanitized them just enough to get him on the TV. But his facial expressions and like his disregard for people's feelings while still being nice about it.
Yeah.
It just like you watch it and it shouldn't work, but it works because of him.
Yeah, he's hysterical.
Yo, you know who was a flop when it comes to fucking stand-up? Cat Williams. The first Cat Williams, like, full-on special was so fucking funny that, I mean, even to this day, if I watch it, I'm in tears. But nothing else he's done since has been even worth a damn.
See, I've never been a fan of his.
Okay.
Because to me, he just struck me as, I hate comedians that just have one gimmick. And with him, it was always just N-word.
Yeah.
And that immediately turns me off because, like, that's all you got. Like, Chappelle will drop it, but then, like, he's dropping other shit, and then he'll bring it back around with that sometimes. But, there's more to it.
Well,
like,
it's not the whole punchline.
Right. Cat Williams seemed like he was just leaning on that the whole time.
I think I'm not going to defend him on this because I can't. But I think it's the context of the rest of the story that had me still loving that first special. Because while it was the focus of it was the use of that specific word you're pointing to, all the other pieces of the story around it were so fucking funny to me that, and I'm just talking about me personally, that I loved it. But then when I got to the next special and it was still all about that one thing, then I was like, nope, no longer funny. You had me on the first one, but you brought me nothing new on the second one.
Right. Like, what if Dice Clay did nothing but nursery rhymes?
Yeah, no, you can't do that. Yo, Dice Clay could never exist in this current time frame. It would never work out for him. He would have been canceled 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
But you know what? His book of work for the short window that he had, amazing. I remember being a kid and getting that first Dice record, just Dice. And I played a goddamn hole in that tape. It was so fucking funny to me.
Oh yeah. Did I ever tell you about when I saw him?
No.
I saw him at the Garden. Me and my girlfriend at the time had bought tickets, and we were in like the 200s or something. But then her brother worked for a magazine, and he came through with some floor tickets. And we were like, all right. And then as we're walking to the seats, I realized like the first like 8 rows of the audience are lit bright as fuck. And you know what that means.
He's going in on you.
That's a target.
Yep.
And we were like 10th row. I was like, oh, thank God. We're just out of the lights. I was like, oh man, because you know would have been targets. Oh, look at the fat couple.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, he would have went in on you.
Yeah. You guys use flour in the bed?
So, all right. I'm looking at the discography of Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
I don't
own most of it.
The mixtape that hates you. I don't have that.
I don't have that either.
And it's from '88. It's right before it came out. So then there's Dice, The Day the Laughter Died, which is like a 2-disc thing.
Set.
Yo,
that one,
that is it. It hurt me at first. I didn't love it at first, but then it grew on me, and it's actually my favorite thing on his whole.
Oh, it's hysterical because
the whole crowd is not feeling him.
It's not his crowd. Like he just went on randomly at like Dangerfields,
right?
And
the crowd was not.
Yeah, it wasn't his crowd. Like if he had advertised Dice Clay at Dangerfields, place would have been packed with all his people. But it wasn't.
But I'm telling you right now, the skit 42 long on 42 long is
40 fucking short.
I'll make a fucking rain in here.
Oh my God.
Yo, as a 16-year-old kid listening to 42 long, you know, I'm a sophomore in high school. I mean, I went to the store the day that fucking thing came out.
Oh, yeah.
Bought it. I mean, because you got Dice, The Day the Laughter Died, and then Dice Rules, which was fucking funny, and then 42 Long that came out. Like, that run of 4 records is just insane.
It was either 42 Long or The Day the Laughter Died Part 2.
Oh, God.
I went to a signing that he did in Manhattan, and I got it signed. I got that signed, and I got the first one signed. But yeah, those were 92 and 93. It was one of those. He did a signing at like a Sam Goody in Manhattan.
I'm just thinking about the third track on The Day the Laughter Died 3, which or 2. I mean, Gas, Feminine.
Yeah. Because Day the Laughter Died 2 was the same gimmick again, where he just went to Dangerfields unadvertised.
Oh, God damn it.
And yeah, that was when he almost got into a fight with somebody.
Yeah. The argument is
so great.
Oh, my God.
It's so ridiculous.
But, like, looking at the titles of some of these pieces of skits.
Oh, yeah.
He would get murdered right now.
Yeah.
Like, even if somebody went back and just was like, yo, we're canceling Andrew Dice Clay, as of today, he would have nothing to stand on because the history is right there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And I'm not saying that he should be, because I don't think he should be. I think he's a fucking hilarious. He was hilarious at the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a different time. But it's just like, you could talk about with TV, like Married with Children.
Oh, such a good show.
You know, even going back, like All in the Family, stuff like there's a lot of stuff you can't get away with now because people would get so butthurt about it.
Did you know that he was on Different Strokes for 2 episodes?
Yes. Yes,
Crazy
I did.
Larry? I didn't even know.
Yes. He did a few weird random acting things.
I mean, obviously, we all, at least I know about the Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Like,
yeah, of course.
which is a terrible movie.
Oh no, it's not a good movie at all. But I was so stoked that it was coming out. I watched it and I was like, "Yo, this is nope. This is a nope."
Oh man, yeah. But yeah, he's done a bunch of random little acting things here and there, and then he had a show on whatever channel it was. What was that show he had a couple of years ago?
It was called Dice.
Yeah. I forget what channel it was on.
It was on Showtime.
Was it Showtime? Okay.
Yeah. And you know what? The show wasn't that bad.
It was kind of funny.
It had its moments. I mean, I'm not going to say it was good, but it was okay. It had its moments.
It was funny seeing him have to kind of adapt, you know,
but
to like not being able to do the same shit. But that was kind of the idea of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have all of his stuff except for the last one that he put out in 2012. I don't own that, but I own all the other ones.
Yeah, the skit where he talks about going to buy shampoo. You put the Burt into the Jabova, save $250. I spent more than enough time with Andy crying listening to this shit.
Oh yeah.
And growing up listening to real comedy, people taking chances and failing, like The Day the Laughter Died Part 1 and 2, really shows me how comedy should be attacked. And I feel like 90% of comedians these days don't even allow themselves to get to that point.
Yeah. See, but I really like that because he took like who would do something like that? Who would go into a club as big as he is, go into a club unannounced, catch flack for it, and then put it out on a record?
Hey, he was just living it. He was like, I need to make a record, and this is going to be fucking funny. And even with it not being funny, it was absolutely hilarious. And just to show you how times have changed, this is a pretty funny little bit of trivia. He was in that remake of A Star Is Born, playing Lady Gaga's father. Really? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. That's how times have changed.
But I mean, it works, because I would assume that, I mean, he had to just kind of be himself in that.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw it, but I remember hearing about it, and I was like, that's bizarre. But it kind of makes sense. You know, he's at that age now, because he's how old?
He was born in 57, so he's 7 years younger than my mother.
63 now.
Jesus Christ. Good God. So he was like 30-ish when I first heard of him.
Yeah, because when he first got his break, which was on one of those
88
comedy, yeah,
he was like 31.
Yeah, so
ridiculous.
Yeah,
fucking ridiculous.
And you know how it is. Those guys, you know, he had already been banging around the comedy scene for years.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, it says he started in the late 70s, so he had been banging around at it for 10 years. He finally got his break.
Yeah, well, that's
and he's been riding that fucking wave since, dude. I mean, it's a much shallower wave at this point, but he's still on it.
Yeah, you know, he's not hurting.
He's definitely not selling out MSG for two consecutive nights again, though.
That's true. That is true. I mean, I wanted to see him one time, and I didn't have the money, and he was doing like the Beacon Theater or something.
Mm.
But
he's from Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, and he's a drummer. He used to play drums in bands.
That I did not know.
Yeah, they mentioned his teenager worked as a drummer in the Catskill Mountain Circuit in the 1970s.
Okay.
And when he returned to New York City, he failed to form a big band of his own,
and then decided to be a full-time comedian.
Oh, so it's big band music. I get you.
Well, yeah, they were doing like weddings and bar mitzvahs,
Yeah.
so it's not like he was playing Black Sabbath or something.
He wasn't big in the punk scene.
No, definitely not. He's definitely not doing Sex Pistols covers. I'll tell you that.
Man, now I'm gonna have to give Dice another listen.
Oh, yeah.
What's not on Netflix? Any Dice specials.
Of course not. I wonder if they're available for streaming anywhere.
I don't
Probably
think so.
not. Because they get canceled.
All the cancelizations. Oh man,
They'd cancel Netflix quicker than for that kids movie.
Did they actually get rid of that thing?
No, I think it's still up there.
Because I have no interest in watching it, and I won't watch it.
Me neither.
But if they're really showing little young kids naked, I think they should take it down.
Yeah, the whole thing is very weird.
Because it's not tasteful at all to me. Like, I don't care that you have nudity on Netflix. I encourage all movies to have nudity in it, but please make sure that they're at least 18. If
No,
you can't,
it's
you
still
can't
up there.
agree to it. If you can't legally agree to the nudity, then they shouldn't have you naked in a movie.
It's still up there, and I don't know. There were arguments in different directions because somebody said that the point of it was really to point out how terrible that stuff is, but
You can still point out how terrible it is without
Yeah.
putting naked teenagers on the fucking screen.
well, yeah. I mean, I've never seen it, so I don't know if that's really what happens.
Yeah, I haven't seen it
I've
either.
heard conflicting stories, but it's not something that I have any interest in anyway. So I mean,
me
whatever.
either.
Yeah, because the guy said it was that it's misunderstood and blah blah blah. But it's a European film, and
They're different.
they're very different over there in a lot of ways. Because what is it, French or? Yeah, it's French. So
Okay.
they're very different over there with a lot of things. So I don't. It may be something that's not necessarily seen as bad there, but here it's a different story.
Everything there is different than here for the most part.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Having been there, I could tell you with certainty that there's a lot of shit that's different over there.
Yo, type in loser.com on your thing.
They do push-ups in the pit over there. It's a little weird.
Just wait. Just type in loser.com and hit go.
Oh man.
Everybody who's listening, just type in loser.com.
That was a good purchase with the registry there.
That's the best redirect ever.
Oh man. That lawsuits incoming.
ASAP.
Oh man, that's great. That's awesome. Loser.com.
Here.
Loser. Oh man, that's good. Oh boy. Well, on that note, we will wrap this up. It's been a long, eventful week.
And it's just
And it's still not done.
It's not over yet. It's only Monday.
Yeah, it's only Monday, and
I'm still super soaked on last week. So let's just on Saturday's news.
yeah, well, Never leave it in the hands of the judges.
Oh, the uncanniness of that comment being that Dana White is his boy. He should have told them.
Fuck Dana White. Fucking bootlicking motherfucker that he is.
You know what? That's what somebody needs to cap. They need to cap the screen, like the video of Dana White yelling, "Do you really want to be a fighter?" And you never leave it in the hands of the judges. As he's yelling at Trump, I need him to I need a faked up video of him yelling at Trump.
Yeah, if I could do anything with video, I'd be on that shit immediately.
Yeah, I'm not good with deep fake videos, but that would be pinnacle excellence.
Fantastic.
Do you want to be a president? Do you want to be a fucking president?
Don't be a pussy.
Never leave it in the hands of the judges.
Don't be a loser.
Oh man, that would be fucking great.
That'd be amazing. Somebody's got to do that. Somebody with video capability put that shit together.
I'm about to make a post.
Oh man. Loser.com. Oh man. Well, before we go, one other thing. What do you think Trump's going to do now? I've heard some stories. I've heard some things thrown around, and I don't know.
What do I like?
Agree with anything.
What do I think he's going to do between now and January 21st, or what do you think? What do I think he's going to do after they toss him out like Jazz Jeff?
I'm afraid of what he's going to do between now and January. But I've also heard that he may start his own news network. I think he'll probably get arrested.
I think he's going to go hide in Russia. CBA. But no, I mean, in real seriousness, for a man that proud and that irreverent and pushy and all the other things, all the other adjectives that we could toss at him, he's going to go back to fucking Fifth Avenue and go back up in the Trump Tower, and we're going to spend goo gobs of money to defend that dickhead because he's going to always have a Secret Service detail on him for the rest of forever. Right. So he's going to continue to cost me fucking money until the day he's fucking dead. And he's going to cost all the rest of us money. It's not just me, it's all of us.
Yeah.
So what is he going to do? He's going to, go back to his regular quote-unquote civilian life, and he is going to fight off all the paperwork that comes his way in the forms of lawsuits and civil suits and everything else that's headed toward him. We've joked about he's trying to avoid going to jail. I don't really foresee him ending up in jail. It just seems unlikely, but he's going to have to defend himself in court a number of times.
Yeah. I mean, rich people never go to jail, but the flip side of that is that somebody, if he ends up in the wrong court with somebody that hates him enough, they might throw the book at him just because.
Just to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when it comes to court, but
you never know. But it's unlikely that something along that line will happen. So what do I really think he's going to do? He's just going to, go about living his dumbass life with his dumbass fucking family, and they're going to cause trouble. Like, I saw somewhere somebody Ivanka should run for president next time in 2024 or whatever. Get the fuck out of here.
There's been a lot of talk that he might come back and run himself in 2024.
No. Get the fuck out of here.
Which is part of why I was asking. I think that's unlikely, but who knows what'll happen between now and then. There's talk that he might start his own news network or buy a news network and change it over or something. I don't know.
I mean, talk about fake news, you'll have the capital of it at that point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be the fucking QAnon channel. They'll just go all in and say the fucking aliens are coming.
And part of me wants to say the more we give it bad press, the more it has good press, and then we should just ignore it. But ignoring it isn't going to actually work.
See, I agree with that, and people would put up a stink about it, but I think it would be so great if as soon as he's out of office, no matter what he does, nobody covers it.
That would be great. But
it would totally ruin him because he would freak the fuck out. But, you know, that's how you deal with attention horse.
Yeah, agreed. But what I'm saying is, like, if he bought a news network, you know, if nobody was tuning in, that would be great. But we have to understand that his cult is so deep that people would 100% tune in. And for me to ignore it and not talk about it, not bring it up, just makes it worse. It's just like if we ignore racism, we ignore sexism, we ignore fatism, or any of the things that go on, it doesn't necessarily make it better. It allows these people space to make it worse.
Right.
So instead, we need to step on it early and often and keep doing it to make people feel uncomfortable for their shit views.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of months and then beyond that. Because, as I've always said, you know, Joe Biden isn't going to solve all of our problems.
See, I don't think that Joe Biden is I mean, I made the post the other day that the war is not over. We need to keep fighting for the things that we all seem to think we need. And if we don't, we've lost already.
And to bring up AOC again, that's one of the things that she said that.
Oh shit! You know, I'm on board with her.
Yeah, people were complaining about it, like, "Oh, why are you being so negative?" Because it's true.
You know what?
But it's also because, like I said before, you know, with her and the people she represents, their needs are not being met
at all,
and never were. So you're back to that, and she, you know. She's very open about trying to meet the needs of her people, which is more than I could say for a lot of other people in politics. So
I am on board with the nature in which she handles her call-outs. 100%.
Yeah.
Hold these people to the fire. And even more importantly, that when she's doing it intelligently and intelligibly. So she's not just bluster like Trump. She has true facts to back it up. You know what I mean?
Right.
She has conviction. And she has a team of other people around her that are willing to ride with her, but they're not riding out of fear. They're riding because they agree. Whereas, like, with Trump, it's dangerous because I feel like a lot of the people riding with him are just riding because they're fearing that they're going to lose their jobs or not be taken serious.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the squad is rolling in that direction because they all agree that is the direction to roll.
Right. Well, they're all on the same page. But that goes back to what I said earlier about a lot of the Republicans are just falling in line trying to defend Trump because they're trying to cater to that base.
Yep. Just trying to keep their votes. That's it. I got to keep my votes.
They don't have, they don't have any convictions of their own. They're just trying to go with whatever, but it's silly. But that's the difference in politics, between these people. And I'd much rather have somebody like AOC who's trying to serve her people and not, she's trying to serve her people without flip-flopping on shit.
Mm-hmm.
Which we all know is common in politics.
Yeah, I mean, that is synonymous with politics these days, right. Is flip-flopping.
So, we will see. It's going to be very interesting how these things go.
Hey, I'll go on record right now, and once Joe is done with this term, if he decides he's not doing it anymore or he doesn't make it to the end, and AOC decides to run as a third party, I will vote third party. I will do it. I don't give a fuck.
I think she'd beat Kamala.
I think that you're right. And I think that there's enough people that would split this vote hard enough that it would go that direction.
Kamala versus AOC versus Ivanka.
But the problem is there are so many. Okay. She would get the Brown contingent right off the bat.
Right.
And when I say the Brown contingent, I'm including anyone Hispanic that isn't, how can I say this without being rude, passing. Because there are a certain section of Hispanic people that will vote against their best interest because they believe that they are in line with the other side.
Right.
It just is what it is. So she may lose that piece of the contingency. I guarantee you, because she rides so hard with the squad, she will gain almost all of the Middle Eastern vote.
Mm-hmm.
Black vote will definitely turn out for her if they hear about her.
Right.
It will be incumbent upon her to go out and cultivate that vote outside of New York City.
Yeah.
And then all the woke white people will vote for her.
Mm-hmm.
Then there will be people like you, people like me, that are progressive in general, who don't align with the Democratic Party and would align with most of what she has to say, that would jump ship to her thing. I think there's enough to split the Democrats up. My concern would be that the Republican side of the aisle would stay the same. Yeah. I don't think that she would pull in anyone from that. And that is the big issue. Are there enough of us to make that third party anything more than an also ran?
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, if you started a central or a centrist party, and I'm not saying we should do this because it still will not serve enough. It will serve probably a lot more people if you had the Republicans and the Democrats, and then you had a centrist party that kind of all the people that are Republican but might also lean socially liberal.
Right.
And then you have the Democrats that are liberals, but they might lean conservative-ish for fiscal stuff, and they ended up in a centrist party. That party could take over.
Right.
Whereas if we split it the way that both of you and I think it should be split, which is add a third party a little bit further to the left that isn't a party that already exists, because it's full of people that just have like wild ideas that are not, like Jo Jorgensen, she means well, but like, come on.
Right.
Not viable. You have that third party out there. Will it really have enough support alone by itself? I'm not sure.
That's the real question, because we know it would do well in the cities.
Which is clearly what won this election for the Democrats.
Right. But the question is, will they do well enough elsewhere? Because the cities alone won't cut it.
Right.
So that's the speculation, and that's something we'd really have to see. I still strongly believe that they should do the third party thing, because I think trying to take over the Democratic Party is a waste of time.
If Bernie had run third party in 2016, if he had just middle fingered the Democrats, I think he could have won with the right choice.
As I said, he should have back then. And I think even if he lost, he would have set the stage for a strong third party showing this time around. Because, you would have had a lot of people against Trump, and I think they only voted for Biden because they had to.
Right, they only did. That was the only option.
And I think if you put a viable third party there, Biden would have been third.
You probably are not wrong.
Yeah. But we'll never know.
Yeah,
because Bernie was afraid to make that move, and I hope that, not for himself, because at this point it's past his time, but I hope, because he's got the backing, he's got the
that
juice.
He would support it.
As the elder statesman, he's got the juice. I would hope that he would lead the charge for this. Not for himself, like I said, but for the next generation.
We can only hope so.
He can make a big splash here and change the game. And I hope he does. I hope they do. Because at this point, something needs to happen.
I heard some speculation that they don't think that Biden will even make it physically, and it may have been a joke, but to the fucking inauguration, and that Kamala will be our president, which I do not need.
I don't think that would go well. I wouldn't go that far. Will he make it to 4 years?
I'm not convinced of that.
I'm not convinced of it either. But I think he'll make it to January.
I hope he makes it to January.
Yeah.
Because once he's signed in, then all the rest of the shit can just flow as it has to flow.
I forget what I think the protocol is that the vice president
becomes the president, and then the Speaker of the House.
You'll get a lot of kicking and screaming, but you won't. The precedent. The rules are already there. It's not something that's going to get fought out in court. But they'll try. For what it's worth, they'll try.
They'll always try.
No, they're still trying. They've been doing this for the next 4 years. When? all the shit they accuse the Democrats of doing, they're doing the same thing. They're crying. When? Well, Trump's been crying for a long time. It's always something. Somebody's doing something to me. When? The China virus. When?
Yep.
Whatever.
So, in the presidential line of secession, secession, which means whoever comes in afterwards.
Right.
So, it's VP, then the Speaker of the House, and then the President pro tempore of the Senate, and then the Secretary of the State, and then the Secretary of the Treasury, in that order. As people will get picked off, they just keep going down that line. So it's they take it all the way down to the Secretary of Homeland Security is the last person in the list. So when they're hiring their team to be on their cabinet, these are all people that could potentially be the president
in the case of a disaster, which is why they would be fighting against him putting anybody like AOC in.
Right. Well, the other question is if it happens before the inauguration.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Well, I just pulled that up. The Electoral College, the official Electoral College vote is on December 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And the certification of that vote is on January 6th. If he were to die before the Electoral College vote, the DNC would have the ability to name a replacement candidate and pressure the electors currently committed to Biden to support them instead. Presumably, although not necessarily, the new candidate would be Kamala Harris. So that could make things interesting.
Right. Good.
Once he is selected by the Electoral College, he officially becomes the president-elect. If he were to die between the Electoral College vote but before the congressional certification in January, members of Congress have an opportunity to object to the electoral results in any state, and if both chambers agree, switch that state's votes to the opposing candidate, which is highly unlikely. After the certification and before Inauguration Day, then the vice president would step in.
Yeah, the vice VP steps in.
Then those rules of succession, like you mentioned, those are in play once Congress certifies that Electoral College vote. So that would answer those questions that we were just asking.
You know, I never actually looked at Trump's cabinet from a standpoint of what party they are, but literally he picked every single one as Republicans, not one Democrat on his entire cabinet.
Oh, of course.
Not saying that you should go across lines, etc., but if you're trying to make anything go through, you should have a varied cabinet. Like, you should be picking the absolute best people for the job, not just people who suck your ass. So,
yeah, but you know, Trump only ever picks people who suck his ass.
Yep.
That goes because all these people that he appointed in all these different places were all donors.
Yep, all of them.
All of them. And listen, even take it further. They ask him about QAnon. Oh, I don't know anything about them, but I know they like me. It's good enough for him.
I thought you said you didn't know anything about them.
It's good enough for him. Fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with one last thought before we wrap up, which is something that I said on Facebook, and I'm still thinking about it, and I can't believe that nobody else has really brought it up, although maybe the numbers don't warrant it because I'm not totally aware of the numbers. You know, Trump is all gung-ho about these illegal ballots and all this bullshit. You had Republicans win a bunch of elections.
So if they throw out the bad ballots,
if they throw out those bad ballots,
they got to throw it out all the way down the ticket. You can't just throw out just the presidential piece.
How does that affect your Republican? Because obviously, a lot of people didn't go straight down ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you would have had Republicans winning more. You would have had Trump winning.
Yep.
So there are obviously a lot of people that voted for Republican Congress people, but then voted Biden.
Yep.
So how does that change the numbers, and have these Republican candidates really thought about that? Because if they thought about it, then maybe they'd be less likely to back Trump on his bullshit.
Yeah, but they haven't thought about that. They haven't thought about it because most of them don't think that way.
Well, listen, I'm just some schmuck with a microphone in the Bronx. They're elected to represent all these fucking people. Why aren't they thinking about it? You know? And like I said, maybe the numbers are so strong in a lot of these races that it doesn't matter. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really looked that hard, and like you'd have to really sit there and do some math. Like this many people voted for Biden. Like how many of these people, you know, like I don't know if the numbers warrant it to the point of where they might change the smaller races, because they're not going to change the big one from what most people have said. So I don't know. But if I were a Republican candidate who just won an election, I wouldn't want people throwing no fucking ballots out.
Me either.
You know? And, you know, that also feeds into what people that, stealing the election, blah, 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 blah. If Democrats really wanted to steal the election, Mitch McConnell would be the fuck out of there. Would
be gone.
Lindsey Graham would be the fuck out of there. So, it doesn't really add up to me. So, I mean, whatever.
But you're just making too much sense. That's all.
That's the problem. The war on common sense is on. Clearly, we're in the minority, and we got to stop doing that stupid shit of common sense.
Yeah, they don't want anything that has to do with common sense. So
clearly,
just let them live in their location of just pure ignorance for now.
I mean, clearly a lot of people are happy with that, so whatever.
They're embarrassing.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Again.
We've actually reached the end this time.
For
Not
now.
the earlier time, but this one's the end for today. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to actually talk to Monty from Race Trader, and we're going to get right back into this.
Yeah. So that'll be tomorrow, although it'll probably
be next week, but whatever.
The internet's next week, but either way.
If you haven't heard enough today, you're going to get even more next week. And if
we
you've
haven't
heard enough today,
already,
then just prepare yourself to hear more next week anyway.
Yeah. Well, at least it won't be just the two of us. There'll be a third voice in on the mix. So.
And I guarantee you he's going in on it, so it'll be great.
It's fine by me. He could take the anger baton for a little while. Like, here, you take it.
But he's had that anger baton for a long time. he's been carrying that thing around without even us knowing he's carrying it.
I understand. I can relate.
Same.
I can definitely relate. All right, theupgradepodcast.net is where to find socials and other links for the show. I am Gary Muttley. He is
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios.
And we are The Upgrade. And we will catch you again soon. Thanks for listening.
Peace, all.
Later.